So top LinkedIn creators aren't posting more than you. They are commenting 499% more than you. And that's why potentially they get like 200 times more reach. I just spent a week digging through the data, tracking the profiles of the GOATs like Jasmine Alec, Lara Costa. And I mean, Lara alone left over 50 comments in one day. So while you're obsessing over your next post and its reach, they are touching their audience 150 times more per week just through their comments. And they rarely talk about that. Let's dive in. So Chris Donnelly dropped an algorithm report this week, and it's pretty clear. The top 5 creators comment 499% more, at least 150 comments per week versus 25 for the average creator. And the top 5 creators reply 500% more. And this kind of correlates with, what Richard van der Blom or the big algorithm report has been stating forever, that comments is an underrated superpower, and if you have a great strategy, he calls it a silent power move on LinkedIn. And basically, those top creators allocate 30 to 50% of their time to commenting. The only one really talking about this, I think, is Jasmine Alec. And it's not posting, it's commenting that wins the game, especially in the early stages. But yeah, so let's go a little deeper into the details of this. So you post 3 times and you leave, let's say, those average 25 comments. That's 28 touch points per week. If we keep it simple, obviously it's more, but let's say 28. They post like 7 times per week and leave 150 comments. So they have 157 touches per week out of the box. So just with these base stats, they touched their networks 5 times more than you without necessarily posting more. See, like the posts don't really matter in this math. So let me show you what this actually looks like. This is Lara Acosta's commenting feed of the last 24 hours. I'm just gonna scroll up to today, and here we go. And I'm still going, and I'm still going. Now we are 21 hours back, and I'm still going. This is just insane. Look at this amount of comments. It's crazy. Still going. We're like 4 hours back now, entering today, and I mean, I didn't count them, but this is at least 50. Like, how can you keep up with that? Let's look at somebody else. Let's look at Matt Gray, because he's a very good example for somebody who has a great system, since he's the systems guy, right? Very consistent, 1 post per day. That's it. Very consistent in the time when he comments and when he posts. So he's basically doing it all by the book. And you can see it very clearly here. He starts off by commenting on a few key people in his network just before he posts. And then he engages with yesterday's post a little bit more with like comments that he hasn't reacted on. And then this is where his post of that day starts. And then he's commenting on his post, like this is all on his post, reacting to his comments. And then eventually it starts over again, building up for the next post. For Jasmine Alec, I think he's the one who's actually being transparent about commenting being a very core part of his strategy, and also leaving very authentic comments. Like Lara's are pretty standard. A lot of these creators have pretty standardized formats that they reuse. I think Jasmine is one who's actually on it. I mean, LinkedIn is his full-time job, right? You can't underestimate that, really. So again, like, look at how much I have to scroll. Also with Jasmine, what I appreciate, he's also somebody who's very consistent. He doesn't post on the weekends because he's taking that time off, I guess. And he's posting, I think, 3 or 4 times during the week. Always the same time. You can see he builds up with his comments, he posts, he replies to his comments, and then he has maybe some catch up in other times as well. Also, what's really interesting is if you go to big guys, they stop caring about comments. So like the Stephen Bartlett's or the Alex Hormozis, they only have real comments, very short ones, but it's all like people within their team. It's people that specifically mentioned them, have been there, had real life interactions, and they then comment on that. Stephen is very interesting. I mean, he's super big, he's pretty irregular, but he's very authentic in the way all of this is executed. And I'm pretty sure that his comments are actually done by him, because they're not many, and very strategically as well, again, on his team, on stuff that matters within his business context. So not a good example for aspiring people. Interesting to see what the big guys, like, they don't have to care anymore. Also interesting insight on the algorithm, I guess. And all of this ties in with something that you might have realized in your own feed. People that pop up in your feed are most likely people that you have interacted with lately, that you have, you've viewed their profile, you've been in a DM with them, you have liked or commented their stuff before. And so these people are most likely to show up in your feed. And you can reverse engineer that, right? With strategic commenting. You make it 70% more likely for your post to show up in those people's feed. So if you comment with key accounts, key leads maybe, with strategic influencers in your niche that are relevant to you, you make it much more likely for them to see your post if you comment on their stuff before it goes live. So if you math that out, if you manage to leave 150 comments, and we assume the 70% visibility rate, then that would be like 100 guaranteed views for your next post before any organic reach actually happened. So what I'm trying to say is here, you have good control over this and you can influence your reach quite a lot, but it is fucking hard work. And I mean, I think it all makes sense if you think about the general trajectory that LinkedIn tries to imply on the content with their algorithm changes. They want to be pro authenticity and pro real networking and real engagement. And I think comments is probably the strongest measure they have. Real comments, that is. And you might have had that already. I definitely did. That if some key account actually comments on my shit, it has a huge impact on your reach. And you are basically going viral within the means of the current algorithm, which caps virality out of the box a little, unfortunately. And I guess the secret sauce is it's reciprocal. So you comment on their post, they see yours, they hopefully comment back, especially if you're persistent and you just stick with commenting on their shit. And this ends up with the algorithm rewarding both of you. And maybe now you also understand why the top creators don't necessarily share this. It's hard to sell that in a course, right? How to comment, because it's not easy to scale, but it is their moat. And obviously, if everyone knew this or everyone did this, their advantage would disappear over time, I guess. Now I know what you're thinking. 150 comments? That's bloody insane. And it is. Let's do the math quickly, shall we? So let's say leaving one comment takes 3 to 4 minutes. That's, I guess, if you're good, right? You're reading the post, you're thinking about it a little bit, and you are leaving a thoughtful comment, because you need to have a bit of meat to it. Don't just say good post, great job. These things are worthless for the algorithm and for the creator and for building relationships. So let's stick to 3 to 4 comments. 150 times 4 is 600 minutes, and that's 10 hours, right? And if you divide this by a work week, that's 2 hours per day you would spend on commenting. And that's a part-time job, right? On top of creating your posts and on top of doing your actual work. And also, that's if you don't get distracted by the feed, right? By like diving in looking for stuff, finding something that's interesting, and getting sucked down into the black hole of whatever it is they call the LinkedIn feed. With this, like, very easily those 10 comments that you plan turn into 45 minutes just because you're lost in this, right? But this is exactly the reason why this gap exists. It's not really skill, it's just hustle and time. Some quick pointers on what you can do to actually leave good comments. Might have stolen this from Richard, I'm not quite sure, but just a few key frameworks to keep in mind when you write comment. You can validate, great point about X, especially because, and then you add to it a little bit. You can just add one thing that worked for us was sharing your expertise again. You can link to another person that you know. Hey, look at this. This connects to a chat that we had about this, a couple of days back or something. You can try to dig deeper, unpack it. Curious, what do you do with X and Y, and how do you handle this in this case? Or always good, you can share any experience that you actually had with that specific point. And if you leave high quality comments like this, you will see the results. You will see the results and the impressions you get on these comments, which can easily outperform your posts. Easily. It's scary, actually. You can see that you get a lot more profile views, especially if your headline is very good and enticing. And you will also get more engagement on your posts, of course, and more connection requests. I think it all comes down a little bit to what Hormozi would say, which is do more better. And I think, everybody always thinks that it means like post more and higher quality. And I think on LinkedIn, it's a little different. It means engage more and post better. Like do maybe only 3 posts per week, but do great posts and then engage more. I mean, the people that grow fastest currently aren't creating more, they're not posting more because there's hard limits on how often you should post on LinkedIn anyways. It's not advisable to post more than once. Some people post 2 times. If you leave a 12-hour gap, that's all right, but definitely not more than that. And once per day, you're supreme. You're already in the top 0.1% of posters. If you post 3 times, you're in the top 1% of anybody on the platform. So that's actually cool. But the people that are growing fastest are not creating more, not necessarily even creating better, but they are for sure connecting more. So you kind of need both, right? You want quality content, quantity comments, and I think you can get away with medium quality on the comments because otherwise it's just unscalable. And if you check the creators again, their comments are not as insightful most of the time. So keep your really insightful, thoughtful ones for a couple of key accounts. So how can you actually do that without quitting your job and making LinkedIn your full-time gig? First off, create strategic lists of people that you want to comment on. I have a couple here with influencers, leads, partners, or interesting people. And then personally, I delegate. I have a list that I delegate to my VA. I have a list that I keep to myself for high value comments. And within ContentIn, we made this very easy to have these lists and also AI support to actually write comments. So we create some suggestions for you that will help you greatly to speed up your process. That's kind of the baseline. But then what you really have to do is you have to control what's going on and to see what actually works. And this is where the comment analytics is very, very helpful. As you can see, you can easily get 30,000 impressions from one comment on one key account, 59 likes, 6 replies. That is just insane. And we've made it very easy for you to kind of see how your comments perform, what profiles are working well for you, where you get great exposure, what comments worked, what comments didn't work. This is the overview, but you can also go in deeper and actually see the full list of what has been working for you in any given time frame, basically. So this really helps you to kind of refine your strategy over time and take the pain out of it and focus on the profiles and the comments that actually work for you instead of just being a distraction. So really, I think at this point, with all the changes that we had in 2025 to the algorithm, there is only 3 paths forward if you actually want to grow as a creator on LinkedIn. Path 1, well, don't do it. Keep posting into the void, wondering why your reach is declining and while others explode, right? That's obviously not a good choice. Path 2, try to do it manually, comment 150 times per week and burn out in 2 weeks, I guess. I dare you. Path 3, really the only way to do it is build a system, whether it's hiring a VA, using ContentIn as leverage, or creating your own process, but you need a system and you need leverage. It doesn't scale otherwise. I guess the algorithm has spoken and it rewards relationship kind of over content, really. Comments over posts, engagement over creation. Or to put it the other way, if you want engagement that actually leverages your reach, you have to put in the engagement yourself first. And then it's up to you whether you'll adapt to this. I don't think everybody has to do it. I don't think everybody needs to be a top creator. LinkedIn algorithm is really good at showing the posts to the right people. You have a chance to control this by commenting first and adapt this strategy to your goals. If you are on LinkedIn to do lead generation, B2B outreach, just have a list of your current leads or your current accounts or whatever and interact with them, and then combine that with an outreach strategy to grow your network and be strategic about who you can with and who you interact with, and you'll be golden. And the whole thing comes back down to 25 comments and it will be everything that you have to do per week. But if you actually want to grow, I think there's no way around excessive commenting right now. So if you want to do this, try ContentIn, 14 days free trial, see if it helps you in your process. And yeah, look, so they are already 150 comments ahead of you this week on average. And by next week, it'll be 300 and the gap isn't staying still. So I guess every day you don't adapt, you're not just standing still, but you're falling behind. The algorithm has chosen the winners. The question is, will you and can you be one of them? Speak next week.